Hello and welcome, gorgeous people. Thank you for making it tonight. We're so pleased you're here. Um, Ian and I are sober tonight. Yes, we've given up drinking for something like 48 hours. I know, go us. Yeah, this could be interesting. I'm delighted to be here. And if you've not been here before, let me just tune you into what this is about. We tend to be teachers, but you know what? Sometimes we have the odd lorry driver turn up. But you know, you can stay if you do different jobs. We hang together close because, well, really, we've been brought together because um, this little moment of adversity in sort of the world's journey has meant that actually teachers have had a lot of stick. And against that backdrop of criticism, we found a way to stick together, quite frankly, and we look after each other by actually thinking even more about work. I mean, we're working our socks off anyway, but we work even harder. And through all the trials and tribulations, we look out for each other, and we spend this time often on Sunday to, well, have a chin wag, talk about teaching and learning, and more than that, we found friends, actually, professional friends, and we found a way to look after each other and professionally love each other. So even though teaching is really tough and we are really, really tired, we found a way through it. Now, I'm excited tonight because my gorgeous gang have encouraged me with lots of behind the scenes 1970s reminders of fab sweets, crisps, books, fashion, and I've even got a new T-shirt to celebrate Sunday sessions. Don't know if you can see that, Mr. C. Inspired by Mork and Mindy, and it's got my date of birth on it, actually, so I love it. If you are wearing something stupid, let us know. Hashtag Sunday sessions, because I know the teacher squad like to go all out. Mainly, you know, Sunday, it's about PJs, isn't it? So hit me up with what you're wearing, what you're eating, what you're drinking, anything, so I know you're out there and I'm not alone. Okay, just something else that happens here, which is really quite amazing. There's a lot of you who come, you know, and I'm not stopping you bringing a glass of Prosecco. That might be me again next week. But some of you bring pencils, you bring pens, and your jottings and notes are truly remarkable. And some of you share them back into the Facebook group, hashtag teacher squad, and we can all look at them and see them, and that is truly joyous. So thank you for all the people who do that. We learn from each other, and here is a really safe space where we trust each other and we really push each other's thinking on. It's not just about tonight, and that's probably the biggest thing I've learned from the Sunday sessions. It's not about tonight, it's about our teacher brains ticking over all the time, and it's our thinking beyond tonight about how we're going to take things forward. We've got not a heavy Sunday sessions tonight, so I don't want anybody to have any stress or rising panic. It's really easy breezy, and we're talking very specifically about children at the point of getting ready to write for themselves, their independent writing. Now, the other thing I wanted to say while I'm wearing my kind of Mork and Mindy inspired t-shirt that I'm in love with. I absolutely love yellow. I know it doesn't suit me, but who cares? We have, well, there's me here, and there's Ian here. Ian's my husband. He is a teacher, but he is kind of like the ICT support, you know, subject leader in a school, and I am probably, the equivalent of 16 menopausal women just annoying him all the time about technology. He loves it. He really loves it. He's managing the chat tonight. Say hello to everybody, Ian.
Hello to everybody.
Anything else, Mr.
Yeah,
C?
no. I'm just sorting out something else at the moment. But yes, hi everybody. How you doing?
Yeah. Okay, so there's Mr. C. If you actually want something answered quickly, if you want something sorted, then Ian is loads better than me at answering emails, keeping in touch. And all of you who've ever kind of got in touch, Ian is great at that, and he'll help anybody out. So here we are. I want to talk very closely, and I talk about it a lot, the sharpening, the slither. We're on that sort of edge of refinement. We're here for the betterment of our practice. We want to be the very best we can be, and that's what we're talking about tonight. But before I get to the nitty-gritty, what a week it has been about mistakes. Now, I've got to say, I dropped an absolute clanger on Friday's lesson. And do you know, all the people out there doing live learning have had a hard week. In fact, I would even say that my clanger was worse than PE with Joe. I mean, his was just like a little poof, a little bum burp, a little fart, a little frizzle. We've all been known to let one go in learning situations and maybe even blame the children. I mean, that's not too bad. But set yourself up as an English expert and then go and give children wrong information. I feel mortally embarrassed about this. And the only thing I can say in my defence and I use this term in an educational way, kind of making a real kind of, well, I'm trying to do that fine line between mucking it up, and it certainly went tits up on Friday after the filming finished, was proper nouns. Now, this is my defence. I'm still going to put my hands up and made a mistake, but because I've got a French bulldog and it's a species and it begins with a capital F, I got a bit confused. This is Honey. Can you see Honey there, Mr. C?
Yeah.
This is my little, well, it's yours as well, Ian, my little French bulldog there. And then because I love Nemo in Finding Nemo, but that's Nemo's name and that's a proper noun. And then I got all confused and I had clownfish with capital letters. Luckily, Mr. C put me straight on the live, so we were able to sort it out there and then. So between farts and fish and live learning, I'm saying a sorry for everybody out there. I really am. Mr. C, are there any questions before we start or any comments?
There's 2 comments.
Good. Can people hear you? Then get on the camera.
Kyrome has just said #bumburp, so I suppose that's gonna on about Joe. And then Liz Williams is just saying, and I think I got it right, because she's selling her XXL t-shirts. If you look in the chat, you'll see. But I think she's saying that she's lost, 6 stone since the beginning of the teacher squad session, when you first,
Liz,
which is phenomenal.
Liz, that is amazing. Go you, Liz. What is it? Just like air and prosecco because it's working, babes. I mean, congratulations. Can you call a fart an air biscuit? I was having this conversation with one of my children. I don't know if it's like air. I get it. Biscuit, maybe not. Hit us up in the chat for alternative names for farts. That's sort of seems to be the standard of tonight. But yeah, okay. So can we just leave the proper nouns and sort of little frizzles behind, please?
Sharon says,
yes.
Sharon bets that she knows that her class knows that humans make mistakes, and it's all
Oh,
fine. And she finishes off by saying, "Don't forget that they're used to her, to me, to Sharon."
oh.
So
Well,
yes,
it actually, making that mistake on Friday reminded me of this book called The Book of Mistakes by Karina Lucan. And it's a book of artistic mistakes. Now, I went to St Edmund Campion's Roman Catholic secondary school when I was growing up in Erdington in Birmingham. Big up, Erdington Massive. And when I was at school doing my art GCSE, I was the first year to do a GCSE actually. During the art exam, true story, a football got kicked through the window and hit me on the head, which was kind of my excuse as to why I didn't do that well. But it feels for me, I feel a great affinity to this book because this was like the football kind of crunch moment for me on my skull, and my brush kind of went a bit squiffy. But here, this is a whole kind of accolade to the mistake because Karina starts off here trying to draw a face, and then she makes one of the eyes bigger, and then she tries to counter it, and then the other eye goes bigger, but then eventually the glasses are the good idea. But it's kind of a whole collection of tripping over ourselves with blodges and splodges until you get actually the most gorgeous piece of art at the end. And isn't that what life's about? I think as long as you don't, I almost feel like you can tell the children in your class you make mistakes because that's only fair, because they're relying on you for how you learn best. But I'm certainly not going to tell my own kids about the mistakes I've made. I'm keeping that one under my hat. Okay.
all of them.
I'm not telling them any of my real mistakes. Oh my goodness. I'm going to stand.
Come on, move on.
Come on, you. Right. We are looking at tonight independent writing. And what I've done is just to ease our thinking, I've chunked it into two parts. We're going to talk tonight about the first part of the sequence of independent writing. And I have spoken about this before, but I always think there are certain things that we need to recap, regroup about, and sharpen. So let's just have a little look at this visual here, and I suppose that I'm trying to allow you inside my mind here. The reason why I've chosen to talk about independent writing is the live lessons. We've not built in any space for independent. And I don't want you to think for one moment we don't care about it. It's just not appropriate really for me to say trying to organise children from afar that I don't know, and I lose control of differentiation tools and sort of things I'd want them to do in preparation, and then setting them off to do silent writing. It's hardly engaging for them to watch. So we've kind of sliced that out the equation. So for those people who's kind of only met me recently because of live teaching, I thought it was worth having a regroup, a revision, and even if you're a first timer about this part of the sequence. So have a little look at this. This visual here with icons and symbols on represents two parts, and essentially I want us to see that when we take, let's say, an hour of English time, this is our teaching sequence for writing. And we are, as a teacher, when we're teaching children to be good writers, we are either starry lessons, getting involved in experience sessions that are immersive, going out, inviting visitors in, listening to soundtracks, doing dramas, dressing up like a twat, that sort of thing, inspiring and engaging stuff. Or we are this type of session that has the symbol S, which means we are sharply focused on sentence teaching, the craft and construction of making meaning. And for every sentence lesson that we have, we'll have a plot point. A plot point will yield a damn good sentence lesson. And that is where we are tightly modelling things. We're working through the lenses of the rainbow, and that is the talk part. And that's the sort of stuff you see in the live lessons that we're doing at the moment. Just a little tip off, because we're getting lots of queries about this. I know Ian's getting a bit inundated. On Thursday, The Secret of Black Rock finishes. And then on Friday, which I know is a bit weird, but we are going to start a new unit on Friday. And the reason why we made that decision is we wanted our unit plans to fit in neatly up until the most common half term. So that's how we can get in The Secret of Black Rock, followed by really eager to do a non-fiction persuasive letter, followed by, after that, an animation, the Oscar nominated The Lost Thing. And by slicing out independent writing, we can get all of those taught units in. Okay, so Friday, we're switching it up and going non-fiction. Okay, we'll talk more about that later. So here, teaching sequence for independent. This is where we are going to put some strong structures in place for children to think about, and we're going to help them in that as well, move through this sequence of building independent writing. And just for the hell of it, I'm saying imagine it's a week. It doesn't have to be a week. You can make a teacher judgment, but there is a certain sequence that I want children to move through so they feel confident and well prepared. And a lot of it is about that precision actually in thinking, that they invest in some hard thinking around some certain areas so that they are free and freed up to concentrate on the flow of their writing. Okay, so let's talk now about how to get that clarity on the go for the children, because if they are thinking clearly about it, we're going to get much clearer writing. So we're moving from and thinking very closely about, now this is what I'm talking about tonight, almost what happens on Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday. You can elongate it if you want, you can make it shorter if you want, but I'm talking closely about what's happening in the planning process. And then when we ask them to write, independently write, we're actually also pacing out time for them. We are saying you've got a certain amount of time on the clock to get to this point in your story or to get to this point in your non-fiction. We're going to help them, particularly in primary, pace themselves and use their time effectively. Okay, so Mr. C, can you help us? We've got a link to lots of information about live lessons. Some of you haven't even entertained it because last week it was so crazy and you were thinking about other things you were already engaging in, and then some of you were taking part this week but you're starting at the beginning. We've got a web page with all information about the live lessons. Any question you have will be locked there, but what is also locked in that link about live lessons is a damn good free resource that I know the community has wanted for a long time. I mentioned it last week, but I know it's a good one, so I'll mention it again, and it is narrative maps. We've got a link there for all blank narrative maps running from 3 plot points all the way up to 15 plot points. If you leech those now, they're going to be available this week and next week, and then after that they go behind our unit plan site. So they are free for this week and next week, so make sure you get your hands and mitts on them, because these are ideal to help you build narrative maps within your classroom, place them on your working wall, and use them as frames that will guide children's own planning. Now, I want to talk about 2 main ways to help children with independent writing for story and for non-fiction. So for story, we can run this type of independent writing. So let's just say, for the hell of it, because it's easy to think about this Little Red Riding Hood, I, in the taught writing sequence teaching time, have got them, let's say, to plot point 5. And we've done the writing, and they're under the wing of our model in kind of write stuff, learning chunk teaching, and then we finish. And then I want them to continue with the story. That's a really good way to work with children. They're already immersed in it. They're writing empathetically from the character's perspective, and they're really engaged in the story. And then we're going to ask them to continue with it. This makes for very good quality writing, actually. And we can do this for non-fiction as well. We can take them so far in a letter where we'll, with the class, have written the first 3 paragraphs, and then we want them to plan the last 3 paragraphs, for example. So this is a really good way to ensure that we get them fired up, engaged, and continue with it. So that's almost like way 1 of working with independent writing. There is the other way, and this is the more common way, where obviously children are going to design their own unique story, and they are either going to be tasked by us to keep to the same genre. So I want you to design a spooky tale. We might give them a big idea or a concept. You know, the main idea in this story is bravery. Can you write me a story with the theme of bravery? Or we're asking them to change some aspect in the story. And these are the choices. But what I would urge you do, and this is part of guiding their thinking for effectiveness, to help them as a whole class to have the same amount of time on their work and pace them out, do set the amount of plot points or waypoints that they are working with. So plot points for narrative. So you say, I want you to design for me a 6 plot point story. It doesn't matter how many plot points there are, but it means down the line, when we ask them to write independently, we can say, oh, there's 10 minutes on the clock for your first plot point. So it helps pace them out, you know, because they're primary age pupils and they're young, and, you know, we need to help them sort of use their time wisely. Of course, you can change the time according to what you think they could cope with and their age. Okay. Mr. C, any questions or any comments so far?
Just some people are talking about how they're going to fit in independent with the live lessons.
Yeah.
And what a couple of people have said is that they're actually just going to shove them to the end of term, let the teaching get underway, and the live lessons can happen later. And then, yeah, it's kind of a bits and bobs, but
okay, great. So that's a really good idea. That actually, in this time, this sort of, it's massive upheaval. There's loads of hoo-ha. We're managing, you know, key worker pupils. We've got children at home. We've got changing situations every week. We've got DFE announcements at midnight on Sunday to keep up with, and all the rest of it. For ease, I think let's keep that, and that's what I've done as well in terms of live lessons, making judgments like, I'm doing a little bit of a side comment over here, but making judgments like we'll always keep the thinking side, so that we've got 2 word banks, at every learning chunk. Just things like that that are kind of stable and samey. And it's like, yeah, log in, you can watch the live lessons or watch me or the teacher or whatever's happening. So there's continuity and there's progression around that, and kind of the sameness and security. And then down the line, we can switch it up if things change to give independent writing challenges. You know, there'll be kids who will want to do it anyway of their own volition. but that's a bit more ad hoc. Yeah.
So the other thing to consider as well is that we're doing these lessons up until the end of this half term, and they're going to stay online. So if you can't engage in the lessons live, or you're thinking, right, we want to do an independent task, or the children doing an independent task at the end of each unit, you can jump on to these at any stage you choose. I know that a lot of people have been talking online about how they're using, so like they're watching Jane's lessons using other software. So Seesaw is one of them, which I don't really know much about, but some people are showing it in Teams, whatever. Somebody in the chat might know a bit more about this, but the point being is live is obviously, is handy, because it means that, we've got probably around about 30,000 kids that are accessing it each lesson at the minute. Not all of them are live though, so some of them watching them a bit later in the day, some of them watching them the day after, and obviously we've got people from around the world that are watching them at different times. But these lessons are going to stay online for good. So even if you can't do all of them during, we don't know how long it's going to be before schools sort of like open to pupils again. So it could be that you jump into them later on, or you slip in independent writing yourselves so that the children can do them at home. Jane.
Okay. Independent writing then. Right at the very beginning, there's certain things we've got to set in motion that really support the children. They need to know how many plot points they are planning for, or how many waypoints they're planning for in non-fiction.
Can I just ask this question?
Yes.
Mrs.
Yes.
PG has asked, just to clarify, the change one aspect, is that given by the teacher or did the children choose?
Okay, the change one aspect. I wrote change a aspect, but I don't know, change an aspect. I don't know whether it's one. I think we've got to be really careful. Depends how old your children are. And, if you're working in year one, you might ask children to change the 3 animals that the mouse meets in the forest. You might ask them to change it being a forest, and actually it's going to be a cityscape. But we really do want to not be afraid to let children come up with their own ideas. Now, you can make some teacher judgments. What you kind of don't want is all your children producing the same sort of writing. So that is really up to you. If what you need to judge is that you make a decision according to the attainment level of your children and what will encourage their gorgeous, wonderful ideas. And some of their ideas will be based on computer games, some of their ideas were based on TV, some of them might be a bit naff, but we don't want to over prescribe it so much. We say change one thing, it becomes you down the line when it all returns to normal, you're going to moderators meetings and you've got the same stories. You don't want to be in that situation. So I think there's a bit of teacher judgment there, really. Okay, now success criteria. What I want to say about this is we know the DfE won't allow us, as part of their independent guidance, to give worked examples. However, we are allowed to share success criteria. And what I urge you do is you share that success criteria using the pictorial symbols from the writing rainbow. And you have this gorgeous mix of the ideas of writing, like feelings and thinking, the grammar of writing, like relative clauses and modal verb questions or whatever, and ideas from the techniques of writing, like simile and repetition for effect. The other thing, what that will do is kind of shine a light on saying, actually, we value both your ideas, your grammar, and some of these more writerly devices that you might be including. I also, as a teacher, like to give them points. not because I'm going to tot up their points in their independent work, but it's me showing the children, I don't think these are all equal weight. So it's me saying, actually, we found simile really hard as a class. And if you included that in your independent writing, I'd be really impressed. So it's sort of that indication of what I'd want them to strive for, sort of lacing high expectations within it. But because we want children to feel really secure in how they work with this, we want them to be certain of how many plot points or waypoints they're working with. And so I might say, I want you to write for me a 7 plot point story, and then also give them 7 success criteria, because I want them to place a success criteria with a plot point. That will mean that they're very logical about it, but it'll also mean within a class, individuals will choose to place things in different plot points. So Amy might choose to put plot point 1 and attach feeling and make it a -9 feeling here, whereas Oscar might say for his plot point 4, he's going to place feeling, but he's going to make it a +2 positive moment. So what we're doing there is taking the success criteria, but the children control where they put it in their writing and can showcase it in different places and in different ways and with different levels of intent, of positivity or negativity. Because what you want, again, is to release lots of ideas and different approaches within the room. These are all beautifully generic and can be applied in different ways. So, Monday, or the first day of an independent sequence, we have set in motion how many plot points or waypoints they'll be thinking about and how many success criteria, but there will be a match. Yes, Mr. C.
Can I ask a question?
Can everybody hear you though? That's the
Yes.
question. Put your camera on there.
Can I ask a question for Matt Torado?
Yes.
It says the children will use more lenses per plot point when writing their paragraphs. What we have done it where we've selected more than one success criteria. Could you offer your thoughts on this, please?
Yeah, okay, so that's a really good point, Matt. Lovely to see you dropping in tonight. Essentially, when we work, we have one plot point. When we're teaching them, one plot point, and one plot point will make one writing lesson, and one writing lesson will release within our teaching 3 main lenses through which we're working through. So every plot point will make 3. Now, I think that's too much pressure for children. You might think, well, actually, in years 5 and 6, they want to do it. But, you know, if you think about, I'm not very good at maths, help me out here, Mr. C, 8 times 5, that's 40. No, it's not.
Yeah, it is.
40 plot points for them, success criteria for them to manage. That is just crazy. And that you're never going to hit kids up and say include all of these success criteria. It is more to do with, I want you to just show me, I'm going to showcase, these, I want you to write me a 9 plot point story. I'm going to showcase these success criteria and I want you to show me you can do that. I think any more is counterproductive. You want plot points to breathe. You want them to, be able to just enjoy the cohesion and rhythm of writing as well. And then we'll get much better. Right, they're freed up. They can show me what they can do and what they've learned from my damn good teaching. And now they've got these moments of kind of breathing space so that their paragraphs can take flight. Now, have a look here. This is a child on maths paper who has drawn their own sort of numerical axes of positivity and negativity, and it's on maths paper, but it's still a lot for a kid to think about. And what we want them to do is have the visual tool of planning. We want this to be really explicit, easy for them to follow and empowering for them, but we want this structure to be really strong. Now, they are working hard on that structure. That's great. However, I don't think children should be left with a blank piece of paper. This is why I really do want the children to use structures like this, or even if we have them, photocopied on maths paper, we need this kind of highs and lows done for them so that they can plot really accurately and clearly. And if they're young, they're doing scales of sad faces, and we just want them to think about this part, in the first instance. So the sort of thing, that child who'd done it already on that maths paper, I'd rather them do that in a grid like this or something similar. So his story goes like this. Here's Chaz. He's really cheeky and a little bit naughty. He's told not to go into the garage, but he goes in there. He finds a machine. The machine starts whirring and he gets sucked into it. And if you get sucked into it when your telly's on, that happens in your real life. And then suddenly he's in the Grand Prix in a blue Mercedes and he wins the race. But he wakes up and it's all a dream. Well, how come on his drive is there a blue Mercedes? So, it's all a dream, or was it sort of story. Now, children need this big picture of where their writing's going before starting a composition. And for children who hate art, it doesn't have to be drawings. It can be keywords like, finds machine. That's fine. And for some kids, it can be drawings and keywords. Okay. Now, this next bit is the building it like Lego. We've got the plot points, the 7 plot points here. And you've got to remember, this is still the first part of planning. I would almost call this kind of planning lesson 1. Okay. So planning lesson 1, they've got their pictures. And then they've also know the success criteria here. The next thing I want them to do is place the success criteria, and they can choose any one. They can place it to positive or negative, and it's their writerly choice. So this child is going to say, actually, I'm cheeky, a little bit naughty, but I'm going to write a sentence about being proud of who I am. And then I'm going to write a simile down here at negativity. I'm going to write a -7 simile here. And it gets plotted right there. And all of these success criteria get plotted so that children know that a plot point makes a paragraph. And a paragraph has one sentence in it. It doesn't have one sentence in it only, but it has one sentence in it that delivers the success criteria, and the rest of their paragraph is their chance. They know the pressure is off. Once they've got this planned sentence, they can actually just relax into the writing. Okay, so here's an example, and I know lots of you like to take photographs on this live session, and that's cool, and this is an ideal time to do it. Here is the plot point pictures and the placed success criteria. That means only they know they're going to write a positive paragraph here, a negative paragraph here, a negative paragraph here, with the focus on repetition for effect. And they have their almost kind of Lego instructions build for their story. They know where they're going to start, and they have a clear idea of the route of their writing, which will make it easier and support them. Now, you might think, I can do that in one planning lesson. That is one planning lesson, and the children have enough time to think of their story and place their success criteria. Or you might need longer, but that's a teacher judgment. But let's say that is part one of the sequence. Part two is giving children the time, and you might need to think about strips of paper, flaps, folded books, different formats. It doesn't really matter, but think about what your children like to work on, they'd like it to look like. I know lots of schools who move to more of a traditional layout now, but this is still part of the planning process, where we've got this first plot point, this Chaz in the story, and the child working on this plan has said, I'm going to write a positive feeling sentence. What I want them to do now, so this is the equivalent of Tuesday or session 2 on a sequence. I want them to plan the actual sentence that delivers this success criteria, so that they have that in the bag. So what that would mean is actually they'd plan the 7 sentences. And it might be more. It might be more if you think about repetition for effect. That might be 3 sentences nestled together that all begin in the same way. But I want them to plan the sentence or sentences that deliver that. So here, the machine fizzed dangerously like a teacher's temper about to explode. So at the planning stage, all the pressure is off. They know their whole route for their story, and they know they have in the back of the net the sentences that deliver the success criteria. If they've got time, then they can make notes, words, phrases, clauses of other chunks of language that might help them. But they are now well placed to write. And what I want to start showing them in my modelling is with another picture, let's say it's a boat arriving on the shoreline at the new city. I want to show them that's where I'm going to put my feeling sentence. I'm going to make it positive, and this is my sentence. Jane felt elated as she looked out at the skyscraper touching the sky. So I'm going to show them then, once I've got my sentence, how I place that in my whole paragraph, because it's not necessarily the first sentence. I'm going to show children, for example, it's my 4th sentence in that positive paragraph. Okay, I don't know if there's any questions, if there's any comments, but that is almost the equivalent of session 1, session 2, you might need to make it longer, of helping children getting ready for independent writing, and all that effort being put into the long view of the story. And it's that combination of the long, clear view, plot points making paragraphs, and that certainty before we even hit silent writing or you're on your own stuff. They know all the pressure's off. They've got their planned success criteria sentences in the bag. We've just got to help them through really skilled modelling of our plot point, a different one obviously because it won't be the one they've planned, of how you take that planned sentence and you think about where it's going to go. Does it start the paragraph? Does it end the paragraph? Is it interspliced in the middle of the paragraph so that children are really certain they are not writing a 7-sentence story? They're taking that amazing pre-planned sentence and putting it into a paragraph. And that paragraph could have 3 sentences, and that's okay. Okay, right. Just doing a recap, just so that we're all certain about that sequence to follow. Number 1, the children draw the key dramatic moments in the story. They can have pictures, just words, or both. It's up to them. They then add success criteria to a plot point and build it like Lego. And where they place it on positive or negative intent is up to them. It's their story. It's their ideas. And that way we're going to release lots of different contributions in the room. The next thing they're going to do is take some time, and we're going to think about how they'd like to do that, what's the layout of it. Has it got flaps of paper on it? Does it fold out? Do we move to a different grid? They are going to plan and write sentences that exemplify the lenses. And finally, we're going to set them off to write their story in paragraphs. And we're going to chunk their time according to their age, according to how they're getting on. You've got 10 minutes to write plot point 1, for example. Now, I'm going to move your thinking to non-fiction. And I know loads of you are in the unit plan family, and don't worry if you're not in the unit plan family, non-fiction is tricky, but what we do on those plans is we diagnose a reading model, a damn good model, just one, and from that we draw down meaning making like jigsaw shapes to explain how we're going to build the route pathway, and these become little waypoints on our bigger journey to produce a holiday brochure or a letter or a balanced argument or a diary or a postcard. Every plan has an annotated model with shapes on, thank goodness, and a key at the bottom, so the greeting, the salutation. Here we acknowledge why they are upset. We talk about positive actions we're going to take. This is where we are going to give our reader some assurances. This unit that we're working on next Friday is all based around the day the crayons quit, and some of you know that I am an Oliver Jeffers super fan, so it's no surprise we've taken this book, The Day the Crayons Quit. Now, what it means is when we do the live teaching, we're going to hook the learning around these big shapes. And some days in this waypoint, for example, we've got 3 meaning-making shapes. And it's a bit harder than story non-fiction. It's not like one plot point makes a writing lesson. Sometimes here we've got these 3 shapes making up one waypoint. That is because we can do some of those things quite quickly. So the address we can do really quickly. The salutation we can do really quickly. And the why we're writing we can do quite quickly. But all of the others, we have one meaning-making shape leading the way. That persuasive unit is going to have 8 writing lessons. And I'm really psyched. Psyched? What's that mean, Mr. C? Hyped? Zingy? Psyched?
Yeah, I don't know.
To know. I'm just making up stuff left, right and centre, like proper nouns and clownfish and stuff. And air biscuits, you know what I mean? Don't know.
So, can I ask you a couple of questions?
No, I can't now. You interrupted me now. Go on, of course you can. No, go on. No, do ask me some questions.
I was waiting for you to interrupt me. So,
Yeah.
I've got a couple of questions.
Do you want to put your camera on?
Yes, I better sit up then, haven't I? So, a couple of the questions. First of all, where is it? So, this is from Sharon Betts. On Friday, we will be finding the shape, etc. Will we need to print off the model? Question number 1.
Really good question, Sharon. For the non-fiction teaching, in an ideal world, we would build in, like we do for all non-fictions, a chance to read the model, diagnose the model, deconstruct it and draw down the shapes. I've made a decision that that's actually going to be quite tricky to do remotely. So I'm going to twist it up a bit, and we're going to talk about the shape very quickly, and I'm going to tell them it, and we're going to meet a new shape every day. We're going to teach it like a slow reveal. I'd rather teach it than knowing the reading model, but we're not going to do that. So, you know, you're going to have to roll with it a little bit. I'm a bit nervous about that bit as well, but we're just going to have to see how it goes. You know, online live lessons, it's all a bit of a compromise. Yes.
Next question from Mark Webster.
Yeah.
Now, he's asking a question about the practicality. So, would you get them to do all of this planning in their books, or would it be better to do it on paper for moderation purposes?
I don't mind. It's up to you. You know, obviously, you don't want to lose any of their planning and preparation. You want to keep it all. Depends, you know. You rock up with whatever you want to kind of moderator sessions. It could be in folders, papers, books. You know, the main thing is that they have to go through this process. So, you know, really, that might be something to ask moderators, your local moderators, and advice around. But in my experience, going to moderators meetings, and I've been to many, it takes all sorts. All things are brought, but the more actually that is bought and shown, rather than the plush, beautifully handwritten piece where you can't see the mess, the process, the crossings out, the flaps of paper, it just makes people a little bit nervous about, well, what was the process? I think our process should be made visible. So I think the more we bring, the more we show, and where it occurs, I don't think it really matters in that regard.
Liz Williams says that she does it on paper so they can have it out whilst they're writing a book. So that's quite a handy little tip.
Yeah, that is a really good idea.
So whilst they're doing their writing, they've got their planning in front of them instead of flipping through.
And in my experience as well, when I've seen really good examples of planning, teaching, and the school's left my mind just for a moment there. School in Northampton, it will come back to me. They always get children to plan on what's bigger than A4, Mr. C? A3 paper. A3, the bigger the better. We don't want anything too squashy. No, A3. And if you get your mat going on A3, then actually we can start adding sentences. Things are less squashy on there. But don't be afraid to, like, one can be their route planner and then one can be their sentence planner, set out and laid out a bit different. But I think kids need bigger paper. And I love the idea that it doesn't matter where it can be in a book or paper or whatever, but the fact they want to be able to see it so they can follow it, you know, when they write. Really good idea. Okay, now, just so you know, if you've not seen them yet, we've got independent write ideas on our unit plan site. And of course, you know, and Joe will appreciate this and all his PE. We know that the felt tips go on strike because, you know what I mean, they keep having their heads pushed in and they get used to do certain things that they don't want to do, and Pink gets fed up with they're always colouring, and why can't we have a pink dinosaur? This is a chance for children in their independent writing to write to anything in the classroom that's had enough, whether that is the erasers or the rulers that are sick of being used as weapons. But what I like here, the chairs who are sick of being trumped on. Do you know what I mean? Air biscuit and all of that.
Can I just play you something, please?
Is it bottom breezers?
Bottom breezers.
What do you call them, Mr. C?
I don't know. I just want to see if everybody can hear these.
Yeah.
I feel like that black.
Yeah, sometimes. Well, I've got different radio stations I flick through, but Mr. C's an LBC fan listening to Britain's Conversation, and I can't remember his name. It's not Eddie Mayer, but he's one of the later night DJs who has sound effects when he talks, and it's absolute cheese on toast.
I was trying to do a Joe Wicks and found a really good sound effect for
a fart.
For farts.
Thank you, Mr. C. Can we move it? So low toned, I can't cope. Right. Unfunny. Okay. Have a look here. And then this will make more sense to you once we've done that persuasive letter together. I know many of you are working in this way already, and that is absolutely joyous. And I see you on your teacher squads with your displays, and that's kind of big heartburst to Sharon Betts and others who are really embracing the non-fiction way. Once children need to plan their own non-fiction, if we've taught them persuasive letter, we want them to write a persuasive letter. And if we've taught, which we will have taught, 8 waypoints, we want them to plan 8 waypoints. Now, we're going to be writing a reply to a disgruntled object in the classroom, and they are going to now, an independent, plan their reply to the disgruntled chairs or rulers or rubbers. Now, I'm imagining I'm a kid and I'm going to write back to the chairs, and, you know, I'm going to imagine Joe Wicks is a kid and has upset one of the chairs. No, I'm not really. I'm going to imagine that this chair, well, someone's been swinging on it and it's broken. Now, what I'm going to do is have the shapes already, but I'm going to put keywords on here. So I'm going to be really sure what I'm going to write about. I'm going to write to the chairs. I'm going to apologise to them. I'm going to let them know there's going to be a chair monitor. I'm going to reassure them it's never going to happen again. I'm going to think about their feelings. I'm going to take part in changing the class behaviour. I'm going to establish seat harmony, and then I'm going to sign off. And what that will mean is children will be certain following this jigsaw puzzle, and it's a bit like, you know, when you make a jigsaw and you consult the picture on a box, they're going to be really certain, and they're going to use the visual clues so they can build their own. What I will still do that's the same, like a story, I place the success criteria. This is where I'm going to do passive voice. This is where I'm going to do repetition for effect. This is where I'm going to use a colon to introduce a list. This is where I'm going to do a complex sentence with the word because in it. You know, this, and I've got all of my place success criteria. That is going to act as my route pathway, and I also will know as a kid how long I've got for each of these sections, because, you know, we've agreed that we're going to spend 10 minutes, maybe more. You know, it might say we've worked out 12 minutes, 15 minutes is too long, 12 minutes is perfect, on these sections organising my letter. Okay, just to show you the sort of thing I want them to do when it comes to non-fiction. Non-fiction, just like story, that pole bridging, you know, this would be almost like your session 2, your Tuesday of independent sequence. I want them to really understand how, by working in this way, their plan will produce a really good product. So They've already told me as a kid they are going to write about feelings in the acknowledge the chair's upset. But that's all very well. In a way, that's the easy bit, just placing it. I want them to prove it to me by writing that sentence that's going to be somewhere in that short paragraph in their persuasive letter. So, firstly, I am extremely sorry about what happened to Mr. Chair. They're also going to show me that they can do, a bit controversial, kicking off, fronted adverb here. Fronted adverb showing positive action. This morning, we have blue tacked every chair to the floor and assigned Ben as the monitor of swing behaviour. Everything in context. And then finally, there's this planned sentence that's really positive, beginning with this conjunction so. So please be assured that the incident we know as Bucklegate will never happen again. And that planning of those powerful sentences means that they have 8 powerful sentences in the bag that dance across the writing rainbow for ideas, grammar and technique. And the pressure's off now. They can hit silent writing and they've got to weave and join those damn good sentences into their letter. That's how we can support them. And what I'm going to do next week is pick it up. So you've got to hold this thread, this semantic thread. We're going to pick it up next week from actually the independent write, but very powerfully into editing. How we can truly support children to be better editors. So this is only half of the story. The other half is coming next week. Don't forget to download your free narrative maps off the live lesson information site. Remember as well, those of you who are hopping in on Friday for the persuasive letter, linked to the day the crayons quit. That plan is behind the paywall and it's about £25 for an individual licence. You're not just getting the day the crayons quit, you're getting 100 plus other plans and more are coming all the time. Early years are coming soon, we think in February, end of February. Don't say dates, Mrs. C, I won't. And then, yeah, that's gone a bit squiffy, hasn't it? Next, yeah, I know. It was.
Why don't you move the photo? Because you can't see what you've written there.
Oh, I see. I can see what I've done. I've probably just moved that down. But it'll probably attach it. You see what I mean?
Oh, right.
You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Read
just,
it then. Read it
it's
out.
gone glitchy. So next week, we're improving editing. We're looking at reworking, refining and redoing what kids hate doing. They hate redoing. I hate redoing. Look at me, I hate redoing. I've mucked that up. Once you've done something, it is hard to go back. It is hard to face up to it and make it better. But we're also going to look very closely at the power of questioning in relation to editing. Okay. That's it from me and my Mork and Mindy inspired t-shirt. We've only done 2 weeks of this lot. We've got a long run of it yet. Of course I'll answer questions if you put yourself on the screen, Mr. C.
So first question's from Vicky. I know you're in a rush to get off.
Do you know why I'm in a rush? Because he does the universal sign of hurry up, love. Yes.
So it's only because people have got things to do, Jane. So just jumping back, it says if they didn't include a lens in this part of the planning, would you indicate this to them and encourage them to include it here, or is this independent as well? We want them to be...
I don't know what the question is.
So if they're not including lenses in their planning, for their plan, would you be encouraging them to do it?
If they've not included their lenses, I'm going back a bit. I'm battle axing further back than that. I'm being a harridan. I'm building a teaching sequence for planning, which is You make the plot point. You're the writer. You decide what's happening. Okay? If you have got a provided waypoint jigsaw shape from non-fiction, you still have to decide the key content that's going to go into that shape. You kids have to plan. You have to put a success criteria to a plot point. And in their independent writing, if they haven't included that, would I let them know that it has led to a judgment that wasn't as strong? Yes, I would. Because we want them to, take their learning and apply those sentence skills within their writing. Yeah, I think the question is, I don't know what the question is, but yeah, man, include it. I think. I don't know. Did you understand that differently, Mr. C? A bit confused by that question. I'm sure it's really straightforward.
Yeah. Just keep tapping them, keep reminding them. The lenses that they will become. The more you're using it, they will become much more attuned to the lenses. So whether you've started it yet, or even if the children that are watching it have never done it in school, they're beginning to pick up the lenses, and it's about repetition. It's about reintroducing, just reinforcing, so that it becomes concrete, and it does become automatic. And some people that are in this chat now have probably been doing it for quite a while.
I think Vicky hasn't. She
That's not from Vicky. No, you're thinking of another Vicky, I think.
A different Vicky.
But Liz Williams has got a good tip. She says, mine got a symbol, and I'll put it on the screen, next to their planning sentences when I could see the success criteria in there. Okay,
That's
Jane,
nice.
can we move on to another question, please, before we go? So I can't remember who asked it, but somebody asked, when is the year 3 spelling book coming out? And also it'll be all the other years as well.
Okay, I don't know why you're making me answer this. He's in charge of timelines. He knows. I haven't got a blinking clue any of this. And he's always saying to me, never say dates. So, don't know. Air biscuit.
We're hoping, it does keep on getting put back, but we're hoping that the spelling books, so this is the year 2 one, I don't know if anybody can see that, so this is the year 2 one. We're hoping that the spelling books, which have got a whole year's worth of spelling activities in them, so you start in September, then go all the way through, they're specific to the groups. This is only a proof, this isn't available yet, but we're hoping that they're going to be available after Easter. Now, I know when I originally said it was going to be January, but we're also looking at Americanisation, a lot of these words, because we're getting a lot of interest from the States. So there is a little bit of a hold up, but not hugely. But we're going to be, and I know some of you guys in here have been proofing them and whatnot, but we are hopefully going to have them out after Easter, so that you can get, because Jane's going to do some training on them. She's going to do some of these sessions on spelling, so that everybody can get going on them from the beginning of September. Joanne Hancock, in response to yours, are they available from year 1 to 6? No, they're available from year 2 to 6, and Jane's going to explain why.
Okay, the reason why we said from year 2 to year 6, because we didn't want to kind of confuse or tread on any kind of phonic scheme toes, and of course phonics is a core fundamental of spelling, but it was a bit like, well, we know there's great stuff out there working for phonics, so let's take that on to year 2 upwards. I might buckle and eventually write year 1, but at the moment, my brain's scrambled eggs, to be honest, and I don't even know what a proper noun is, So I'm going to call it a day. But what Ian said, which is really important about spelling training, that is going to be really exciting, because it's not just about the books. There's going to be spelling training Sunday sessions. We're going to talk really closely about patterns and ways and systems for spelling. We've got a spelling rainbow that I can't wait to unleash colourfully into the world for all of you guys. And it's really exciting actually, because there's been a real sort of poor level of provision for spelling, I think, for a long time. We've got to really seriously think about the teaching and learning of spelling, and I'm excited about doing that.
Teaching spelling, not testing spelling.
Yeah, teaching spelling, not testing spelling. That training will come on board. It will come on board for free, and then down the line we'll make it CP.
A full deep.
Deep provision training for everybody. So I'm going to call it a day. It's nice doing these sober, actually. I can hear everybody. I can listen to questions. I can understand what's happening a little bit more. So thank you for tuning in. Same time next week, we'll talk about editing. And I think that's about it.
Liz wants to see the T-shirt.
Oh, yeah. Nanu. Yeah, 1972. You can work out how old I am. Can you see it? What? I've got lipstick on it. I don't want to show that bit.
Found your new T-shirt.
Oh, well. Thank you, everyone. And I will see you next week.